Now then, guys, welcome back to the Cycle Sunday podcast. And as ever, I'm joined by Mr. Bowker, but we've got Rosie again. Woohoo!
Yay!
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Rosie, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Excellent. Now, and for a flip in fortunes as well, it's raining here in sunny England and sunny in rainy Scotland.
It's
What's going
absolutely
on?
gorgeous. It's lovely. The thing is, Peter, it's always sunny in Scotland. It's just they never broadcast it.
Yeah, that's right. It's a hidden secret. But yeah, no, we've not. It's a bit rainy today, so maybe we won't be going out on the bike today. But loads and loads to talk about in this week's podcast. Where I wanted to start, though, so first things first, almost, I think maybe the first time we've ever done one of these, this is actually Sunday morning. Because our diaries have been so busy this week. We're like, when are we going to do it? I was like, I'm going to have to do it Sunday morning.
Yeah, the wine has been replaced with coffee.
Yeah. So it's going to be a full-on day for me because we've got to record the podcast. Then I'm going to have to quickly edit it and upload it and get it ready for 6 o'clock.
Yes.
But what was really cool was yesterday, which would have been Saturday, I got a really cool WhatsApp from you saying that you had 2 peddlers in your shop that had come in and bought a couple of bikes, and we did a bit of a video, a bike handover, and I said hi to them, which is so cool.
Yeah, do you know what? It was absolutely brilliant of you. Thank you, Peter, because it wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't even thought. It was Rosie actually just completed the transaction with the customers, and we always ask now the original sort of source of inquiry, because not only from a sort of marketing perspective, but we also want to know exactly where people are coming from and where people are hearing from us. And more we are getting, I've heard of you through PetrolPed. I've heard of you through Cycle Sunday. So it's really encouraging. So thank you very much indeed for everybody on that. But I knew that you were around and about yesterday, and these customers have been PetrolPed followers almost from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I thought, do you know what? It'd just be a lovely thing if I just got you on a WhatsApp video call and just got you to say, and hope you enjoy your new bikes and have a great time. And that's exactly what you did. And you were at Goodwood at the time. And so that was really nice. And the customers were just absolutely blown away. Little bit starstruck, if I'm honest.
It was funny because the lighting on my end, it was quite the lighting. I couldn't quite make out their faces and see what their expressions were. But
yeah,
no, it's really cool. And you know, at the end of the day, when we started this project, the hope was that it would raise your profile as a bike shop and get people walking through the door. So when that happens, it's brilliant. And I'm now getting, we've got quite a few of if you like, my followers, my peddlers that have got bikes, and I'm now getting messages. I got one from Lewis this week going, he's done 200, he can't stop riding it. He said he's done over 200 miles on his bike, loves it. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, Lewis and Kev, they email me, message you. It's brilliant. It's this whole community thing that we were hoping for. So guys, just know that it's you're not being a pain. We are loving this. It's brilliant.
Yeah. No, very, very cool. Very, very cool. But so something very special happened this week. And if any of you follow me on social media, you might well have, I put a few posts up, but I got invited, myself and Mrs. Petroped got invited to a test event at the London Velodrome, Lee Valley Velo Park, by none other than Sir Chris Hoy.
Wow.
And it was like, okay. So, and we talked about velodromes briefly. I think we had a chat when we had Joe on the podcast. We talked about velodromes a little bit, and I said it's something I'd always wanted to do. I know you guys have both ridden on a velodrome.
Yeah.
But I got mildly obsessed by track cycling, I guess like most of us, with the Olympics and the rise of Team GB, and you know, you go all the way back to, I guess Chris was one of the first guys that started to get success on the velodrome. Mm-hmm. I know, I guess you could go back to Chris Boardman and the Lotus bike and stuff, but so I'd kind of got really into it and seen it on the telly, and then I've been to the Velodrome a couple of times. I was there for Wiggins' hour record, and although I didn't get any tickets for the London Olympics, I went to a test event about a month before the London Olympics happened and was just blown away.
Yeah.
So I was quite nervous, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to talk about because, you know, all of the guys listening to this, I'm guessing you're either cycle nuts or have an interest in cycling, and it's one of those disciplines that I think not that many people have done. Probably, we've all ridden road bikes and mountain bikes, and as kids had BMXs and things like that, maybe. But velodrome is one of those quite specialist things, and I thought it'd be useful to talk about because honestly, it was one of the most incredible things I've ever done.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I had Chris Hoy next to me was probably the thing that made it like unbelievably special. But even just riding on the velodrome, it just blew me away.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a hell of a day, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that when you go to a velodrome, even if you go and do one of the sort of taster days, it gives you a much more appreciation of what's happening on the telly. So for anybody who goes, oh, Formula One's boring, Formula One's rubbish, the best thing that you could actually do is go to a Formula One race and actually see in real life the change of direction, the deceleration and the acceleration. And suddenly the appreciation that you have for what those guys are doing on the TV gives a completely different dimension. Yeah. So if you enjoy, I think one of the best cycling events to look at on the TV is velodrome racing because it's tight, it's fast, it's exciting. Yeah. But seriously, if you actually go to a velodrome and do two things, number one, go and do a taster event so you actually feel what it is like to ride on a velodrome.
Yeah.
But then the second thing is go and watch a live event at a velodrome.
Yeah.
And the noise of all of those bikes going round, the speed that these guys are riding, and also the atmosphere that you get within a velodrome, obviously as things are starting to open up again, is when you then watch it back on the TV, your appreciation for what is going on is just sensational.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So I think I guess for me the place to start is when you walk when you're on the inside, because the other thing, you get an appreciation from the outside how steep the banking is, but it's not till you're on the inside and you look up at it, and honestly, you look up at it and you think, there is no way I'm going to be able to cycle a bike around there today. It just seems like it's like a step so far away. You're playing with your sound effects again, aren't you? And then they give you your bike, and so I guess I think most people probably know, but let's kind of assume that there's nothing about velodrome racing. The first thing is the bike. Although it looks like just a road bike, it's like as far from a road bike as it could be. There are three really interesting things about a velodrome bike. Number one, they don't have any brakes, which is so there's nothing on the handlebars to grab onto. You've just so you put your hands on the handlebars, and that's really, really weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, they don't have a freewheel.
Yep.
So it's a fixed. You can't. So once you start the bike moving, you just have to keep pedaling. It's very, very, very bizarre.
Yeah. So just to get a bit of sort of tech and nerd in there. So what is a freewheel? A freewheel is a ratcheting system in the rear hub of the rear wheel that basically means that when you stop pedaling, the rear wheel can carry on going round without the transmission going round. And that's usually where you get your click, 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 click from, is from your freewheel. Yeah. These are... a track bike is known as a fixie, which means that the rear wheel and the transmission is locked together with no ability to freewheel. So as Ped's just said, the moment you stop pedaling, if the bike is in motion, the back wheel will just lock up.
just it's the because the thing is you want, because you get momentum really really quickly, and
Yes.
therefore when you stop pedaling, actually the bike doesn't lock up. You just feel this massive resistance on your legs. You lose
Yeah.
you kind of get a bit of unsettledness in the bike,
Yeah.
and it's just weird.
Yes.
And if you do that mid corner, it's also potentially
Hmm.
going to end in tears because
Yeah.
it can unsettle the bike.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is there's no gears, so
Correct.
it's a single speed. So normally whopping great big chainring, tiny
Yeah.
little thing at the back. So when you start off cycling, it's like starting off on your road bike in top gear, basically.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's so when you kind of get on it, and the thing that it's quite intimidating because you get on it, and normally when on a road bike, you'd put your leg over the bike, you'd clip one foot in,
Yeah.
you'd strike down with that foot, and then you'd freewheel a bit, clip the other one in, and then once you clipped in, you'd start pedaling, and off you go.
Yeah.
You can't do that on a track bike
Nope.
because once you strike off, the crank keeps turning round. So you hold onto a banister, and luckily they've got this banister rail running all the way around the middle of the track.
Yeah.
And you kind of get on the bike, clip both feet in, holding onto this banister rail,
Yeah.
and then start pedaling and kind of pull yourself along the banister until you've got a bit of momentum, and then off you go.
Yes.
And that, the first time you do that really is proper sketchy.
Yeah. How did that feel for you the first time, Rosie?
Oh, yeah, I was totally terrified of that and the whole idea of it. And it's actually I found it quite hard. I was found it really tiring as well because you have to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah, there's no breather, is there?
No, and we went to the Chris Hoy Velodrome.
Yeah.
In Glasgow.
There's a nice synergy there.
Yeah.
So we took a photograph with the Chris with his kind of kit that's there all the time at the velodrome, and we went for Paul's 40th birthday.
Oh,
So
that
ago.
was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It's in 1890.
So I planned it. He didn't know anything about it, and I planned it totally as a surprise for his 40th with him and a few of his cycling pals. So I got in touch with them and I said, look, we're going to do this, the level 1. We'll pay for all of that. Just come to the velodrome and it'll be a total surprise. Yeah. So I think the only the point I had to tell him was that Paul runs Shimano cleats on his road bike, and it was Look cleats on the track bike. So I can't remember how I did it, whether I got one of the guys at the shop to put the right cleats on his shoes because I knew he'd want to be in his own shoes. So I think that was at the point where are my road shoes, and I'd taken them to get the right cleats put on. Was when
That's bizarre because I turned up with my shoes, and I was there and just talking with Chris, and he's there with his like the most unbelievable track bike. Is it Dolan? I think his sponsor. And this bike was just. I mean, I took a moment out to just go and basically awe this bike. It was beautiful. But I'm chatting with him and I looked down and I noticed he had Shimano cleats on.
Right.
So I'm like, what kind of cleat system are the bikes got? And he went, do you know what? I don't know. So we went over and looked, and they were all Look.
Yes.
So I had to borrow. I don't know whether Look, are they a stronger cleat, or is that just pure coincidence? Or
no. It's the reason being is that Look don't have a license on the shape of their cleat. So what it means is that you can buy genuine Look, what we call original equipment cleats, which are great, but also there's a lot of other manufacturers who build around a Look cleat. So you tend to just have slightly more Look compatibility around. So for example, Garmin pedals for many years, on the power meter pedals, they were compatible with Look cleats. Bontrager's new pedal system that they brought out a couple of years ago, they are compatible with Look cleats, whereas Shimano, they license their cleats, so you can't get as much compatibility with it. So it's the global average. So that's why they use Look.
Yeah. So yeah, so you're strapped in, and then off you go. And one of the things I found really interesting. So obviously, because Chris Hoy is a complete animal on a bike and puts out more power than a thunderstorm, he's not only got his cleats, but he's got a leather strap, a buckle strap over the top of the shoe as well,
Yeah.
just to like anchor him onto the bike. And you think, oh, I'm glad I didn't put that on, because then. And then we were just about to strike off, and I said, "Oh, just a quick question. Might be a silly question, but I kind of get the how we start thing. But how do you get off? Because normally on a road bike, you would stop pedaling, freewheel, unclip one of your feet, and put it on the floor.
Yep.
You can't do that on a track bike because your feet going around.
Yep.
So the way you stop, obviously, is you kind of go really slowly.
Yep.
We'll come to how you slow down in a moment, and you go along the banister, and then just slowly get slower and slower, and just hold onto the banister. Make sure you don't fall off, because there were lots of cameras around. And then once you stop, then you can unclip.
Yeah.
But it was just so ill. But yeah, the slowing down thing.
Yeah.
Because that's counterintuitive. Because normally on a bike you push down at the front of the pedal on the downstroke, but to slow down on a track bike you put resistance at the back of the stroke as the pedal's coming up.
Yeah. It's
I'm getting used to.
It's the equivalent of engine braking. So yeah. So if you probably a good analogy actually I've just thought of is if you went into a corner with your car and every time you went into a corner you just depress the clutch, that would be the equivalent of a freewheel.
Yeah.
Whereas if you, when you go into a corner with your car, you don't just depress the clutch, you actually come off the accelerator and allow the engine to do a little bit of braking for you. And that, whilst the transmission is still fully engaged and fully active, and that is exactly how it feels when you're riding. Always remember that your legs are just two pistons. You're a parallel twin. It's on a bike, and yeah, you're exactly right, Peter. You just basically put a little bit of resistance through those pistons, and that is your engine braking.
Yeah. But no, so off you go, and there's a very good analogy, by the way. Considering you thought of that on the fly, that's very good. So then you go around. So on the velodrome, the bit right in the middle is the kind of a flat area on the inside of the track. So to start with, you just cycle around there, half a dozen times just to get used to the bike. You find yourself getting quite quick, quite fat, as in they go really quick.
Oh yeah.
So because they're so highly geared.
Yeah.
I ride at quite a high cadence on my road bike.
Yeah.
So you start to try your head says, I should be at this cadence. But at that cadence, you're going really fast. And then you think, hold on, how am I going to slow down?
I know, you're 45 mile an hour before you know it. And the other thing is whilst there is an atmosphere and there is air in a velodrome, just the lack of wind just totally gets you to a point where it's like, this is really quick and really easy to get really quick. And there's virtually no rolling resistance on the wooden boards at all.
No. So then you go around the blue bit at the bottom, which is called the Côte d'Azur.
Yeah.
And that's cool. So you went around there, and then they basically on the start finish straight, they had a cone. I don't know if this is the same for your taster session. They put the cone on the track, and you had to come off the Côte d'Azur up onto the boards, round the cone, and then back again.
Yeah.
And then each lap, they just put the cone a little bit higher up and a little bit higher up.
Yeah.
So you got used to riding up the banking and the effort it took to do that.
Yes.
And then we came back down, had a bit of a debrief, and then went, right, now we're gonna go and ride the lines. And I almost don't want to give too much away for people who are going to go and do it, because for me it was the unknown bit and doing it that made it so special. But when you actually start to go up onto the boards, the thing that struck me, especially the further up the banking you go, is the power you need to put through the pedals to just get round the bank.
Yeah.
So Chris, when you're following Chris Hoy, he's like, so I'm like 2 bikes back from Chris Hoy, and he's like, if I'm going round at a certain speed, as long as you're following me at the same speed, you're going to get round.
Yes.
So that was quite a good. So and then you start going round and you're flying along.
Yeah.
But the power and the effort it takes to get round, especially if you want to go right to the top, it's remarkable.
Yeah. The watts that you have to put in to engage the corner. So you go, you come off the banking onto a straight, and then you have to re-engage the corner at the other end of the track, and it's that transition from being on the straight going into the banking is where you're actually putting the maximum amount of watts in, and then the bike usually then just slingshots round the banking, and then you and then go engaging the straight from the banking is really nice.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
Yeah.
And then because it was only an hour-long session, and this was an event that Chris wanted. He's going to offer this to kind of corporate clients. So it was we were there to kind of give feedback from a cycling perspective, but also from just an overall event. So then we finished off with a flying lap competition. So we did it individually. So Chris showed us how it was done first.
Yeah.
Oh my days. What a machine. I mean, first of all, his thighs are like they're like the size of my waist.
Yes.
I've got a photograph of me stood next to him, and I had a lot of grief on social media, basically, just, where's your thighs? I mean, his thighs are massive, and he retired like 9 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So he showed us how it was done, and then came up, and we started off, and he picked us up at the bottom, and we did 2 laps gathering speed. Then went up to the top of the banking, did a lap round the top of the banking. So there's me with Chris Hoy on my wheel, kind of telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And then you get the bell, and as you come round the final bank, you dive off the bank, so you get the gradient off the bank to accelerate you off, which is just remarkable.
Yes.
And then it's on the black line at the bottom, and then full gas for a lap.
Brilliant.
And I thought I was going to explode at the end. It was only one lap.
Yes.
It was, I don't know, 20 seconds, something like that. It was amazing.
Yes.
With Chris Hoy on your wheel going, come on. I'm like, and the bike's shaking, and I'm like,
Brilliant.
It was just the coolest thing ever.
Brilliant.
Happy to report, pedalers, I came third out of like 12 people.
Oh, well done.
Well done, you.
And the 2 guys the guys that came first and second both worked for Zwift and were basically professional cyclists. And the guy who won, his time was only 2 seconds slower than Chris Hoy.
Really?
So the guys were like, that's the fastest time they've ever had on a hire bike.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
he was awesome.
Well done, him.
I mean, you look, the 2 of them, they were lovely, lovely chaps, actually. Hopefully we might get to do some more things with them. And they came out, and one of them had the coolest bike, actually. So Zwift had done a colour scheme with Pinarello. So it was a Pinarello Dogma F10 in Zwift colours, and they did like a bulk order for people who work at Zwift, and it was like a really, really nice bike. So, but you look at them, and they both just looked like cyclists.
Yes.
They were like absolutely bean thin, massive thighs.
Yes.
You're like, yeah, they're going to be quite
Yeah.
So I reckon I actually won.
You did.
Really.
You did. I mean, from an amateur perspective, you were the winner. In fact,
exactly,
actually, yeah.
But no, it was just a brilliant experience, and it made me really, like you were saying, really appreciate. I mean, I did 1 lap, 1 flying lap, and I was absolutely spent. When we were doing our practice, after about 5 laps, I was blowing. I was really struggling. So you watch, I don't know, something like the Wiggins hour record. I mean, I was there to watch that, but I now have. He did 45 mile an hour for an hour. It's like, really. So yeah, amazing. So I would, if the big challenge, I guess, and we were talking about this at the end, is there are only, I think, 5 indoor velodromes in the UK. So depending on where you live. I think there's obviously one in London, Manchester, Edinburgh. I can't remember where the other 2 indoor ones are.
Glasgow, the Sir Chris Hoy one.
Oh, that's in Glasgow. I thought it was
no. There's an open air velodrome in Glasgow, in Edinburgh, but the Sir Chris Hoy velodrome is in Glasgow.
I got them the wrong way.
It's fine.
Yeah. So check them out, Google it, and they all kind of do taster sessions, and it's not a very expensive thing to go and do a taster session, and it's one of those, for me, a cycling bucket list thing ticked off. I mean, yes, for me, I was super lucky to to have the probably one of the I think the most successful British Olympian 6 gold medals in the Olympics. But for me, one of my all-time cycling heroes, because and as Joe said when we were talking about him meeting Chris, he is the nicest guy
Agreed.
ever. He's a nice guy if he was just a normal bloke, but considering how well known and how famous he is, he's just such a nice guy and so open and welcoming and a brilliant day. But anyway, I thought you'd like to. So I did get some film of it.
Do you have any? Did you have any issues that day though?
Yeah, I had a body cam. I got a GoPro body cam, so that's come out okay. Yeah, the trackside footage. I had a slight issue with the trackside footage, but we won't talk about that too much. Always helps if you press the play button on the video recorder.
The other thing as well, just a bit of a warning to people, is that if you do go and get a taster session, it is totally addictive. It is really addictive. Imagine. And again, just another bit of an analogy for sportive. So say, for example, if you like road driving, so you've got a really nice car and you like doing road trips and that sort of stuff. If you are a sportive rider, so you like riding outdoors for long distances, a velodrome is the go-kart track for the petrol head. So do you know what I mean? When now you've been on there, do you understand it?
Yeah.
So
it's fast.
Yeah, it's really fast. It's really tight. It's really technical, and you're on it all the time. And the other nice thing is that the consequences of sort of making a bit of a hash up and a mistake isn't quite as dramatic, but it's so addictive to do.
Yeah. A question then, in terms of kit, because when you go and do a taste session, you borrow a bike. My bike I borrowed was a steel frame bike or an alley frame bike. But how? I mean, I know it's as long as a piece of string, but in terms of a track bike, what kind of budget would you be looking at if you were to buy a track bike to get an okay one? I know
genuinely don't know.
Very open-ended.
Genuinely don't know. But the thing is, because it doesn't have any gears or brakes and they are relatively simple, then you can get yourself a nice quality track bike for not a lot of money. And the other thing is, if you're just doing it to go and get a little bit of, because don't forget, I mean, it's other than sort of lack of locality and convenience and what have you, track cycling is actually quite a good way of doing winter riding. So if you did have a velodrome locally, rather than being on the turbo trainer on your own, you could literally get like a winter pass and a relatively inexpensive track bike, just wear your normal bib shorts and your normal jersey and wear your normal shoes with your normal pedals and go and literally get laps in over the winter with a velodrome. And frankly, you'll then get to chain gang with more people, so it keeps those senses really high. So when you then get back out on your sportives in the spring, it means that you've still got that ability to be able to ride close coupled with other riders. So, it is an option that I don't think many people think of.
Yeah. You do have to be at a certain level, though, don't you, before you can do that. So the taster one that we did was the level 1.
Yeah.
And I think Paul's done that twice. I've just done it once. And then you do the level 2. And I think after the level 2, you have to get a pass before you're actually allowed to go and do a free session. So it's a bit like on the indoor ski slopes, that you have to have reached a certain standard before you're allowed to just to go on it on your own.
Yeah. No, and because actually interesting when you're following someone closely on the wheel, it's a totally different technique. Because on the road bike, if you get a bit close, you can just quickly touch the brake to pull yourself back. You can't do that on a track bike.
Nope.
So your anticipation levels and your awareness of the rider in front and the surroundings has to be so much higher. So it's probably quite good practice, actually.
Very much.
No, it was really good. I said a good mate of mine. He's a road cyclist mainly during the summer, and then in the winter he does CX riding and velo. So it was really, really cool. But it was good. And track bike, I don't need another bike, but a nice track. I mean, Chris's track bike, oh my days. I mean, it was a solid, filled in carbon rear wheel.
Yeah.
The gearing on it, Honestly, you look at it and you go, how do you turn that? The front chainring was like, I don't know, it had about 1 million teeth, and the back one had like 11.
Yeah.
You know, it was, the gear ratios were ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good, really, really good. So
Yeah.
so that was my my velodrome experience. So yeah, as I said, just if you are interested, check out your local velodrome and see if they've got a taster session. Highly recommended.
Indeed.
It was a brilliant experience, and yeah, I'd love to have another go and just be there a bit longer. But it was an hour-long session, and I didn't, because I thought it was like a corporate taster event. I didn't think it'd be that bad. I was absolutely finished at the end of it.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it was really hardcore.
Mm.
So yeah, it was good. I was thinking, hold on a minute, it's flat. It can't be that hard. Anyway, so moving on. There's some exciting things happened in the shop this week.
Very much.
There was an exciting delivery this week, and you've sent me some pictures.
I sent you a couple of little tasters, didn't I?
Yeah. So again, for those of you new to the podcast, or if you're not, so throughout this whole Cycle Sunday series, we started it initially building my frame up custom build road bike, and it was very much about the road bike. And then as we've kind of gone through, we've talked about other types of bikes, gravel bikes and e-bikes being the two of real interest for me so far. Because we had a delay on the road bike build.
Yep.
More updates on that very shortly.
Yeah.
But Paul lent me a Bianchi Architects gravel bike, which I have utterly fallen in love with, and it's ace.
Yeah.
It's ace, and we've talked about that quite a lot. But the other thing that I decided to do was, as we talk more about e-bikes, especially having talked about you two guys going out on your e-bikes together. In fact, we talked about it last week. So Rosie, so you can keep up with Rosie.
Yeah.
And obviously Tracy's now got one. I decided I was going to order myself an e-bike.
Yeah.
So a few months ago, and I had a chat with Paul and said, look, why don't I order exactly the same bike as you two guys have got, the Trek Rail 9.5, which is the carbon frame, full suspension Trek mountain bike, but with the entry level componentry.
Correct.
Was that described quite well?
Very good.
Very good. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
You're hired. And the reason we decided to do that, because they do is it the 9.7, the next one up with higher level wheels and group set and stuff.
Yeah. So they do.
I mean, that's.
Yeah. So let's just have a little bit of an overview. So the Trek nomenclature, the Trek Rail is the manufacturer and the sort of frame style. So the Trek Rail is basically 160 millimeters of suspension buoying on the front and 150 millimeters of suspension buoying on the back. It's a lot of travel. It's an ace. Yeah, it's really good. And then what they do is they do alloy framed versions, which is just like a single number. So you'll see a Rail 5, a Rail 7, and a Rail 9. And just like going to choose something like an Audi, a BMW, or a Mercedes, effectively, as you start spending more money, the thing that is never compromised is the chassis quality and the build quality. What happens is the bits and pieces that's bolted to the car gets better and better and better. And it's exactly the same. So a Rail 5, aluminium frame, entry-level components, Rail 7, kind of everything that you'd ever need on a bike, and a Rail 9 would be everything you'd ever want on a bike. You can then move into the carbon frame models that has got a 9 point and then a number. So you've got a 9.5, 9.7, 9.8, and 9.9. And again, they're all carbon frame bikes. And as you start spending more money and those numbers get higher, then it's got better component kit on it. The end.
The end. And so I thought, well, there was a part of me went, well, what about if I get a 9.7? But two things. One, it's quite a lot more money than a 9.5.
Yep.
But also, what we quite liked is the idea that, and the reason that you bought yours as a project bike was because you got the kind of entry-level components. It's not beyond the realms of things. Well, I'll upgrade to maybe a different wheel set, or I'll put different suspension on it, or I'll put different gearing on it, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it gives you maybe options to do that.
Yes.
And I quite like that idea. So I ordered a 9.5.
Yes.
Same color, because they're all in the same color. You
Yes.
can't. It's black and red.
Yep. Ruby.
Very cool. Yeah, well, yours is Ruby. I'm gonna have to think of a new name for mine.
Yes.
We haven't got any suggestions yet for Rosie. I think it's Rosie Rail. I think it just goes for it.
Rosie Rail.
Call your bike after your own name.
And I think yours should be Reginald.
I could call my bike Rosie, but then it probably wouldn't be good when I go for a ride on it. So we'll move on.
Not good.
Not good.
Insert
own joke.
You've got matching grips to mine though. You've got very smart red grips.
Yes. So I ordered the bike, and then the in terms of just some kit on it, we'll be obviously doing a video on this for series 2 of Cycle Sunday on YouTube. But I put Deity red Deity grips.
Yep.
I've got some very nice Shimano XTR pedals.
They're XTR trail pedals.
Oh,
Monge too.
Which is very exciting. And then what else to put it? A Garmin front Garmin mount that has a GoPro mount on it as well. Which is very cool.
Yes.
So and a bottle cage or 2.
Yes. I think. No, a bottle cage.
A bottle cage. That's yeah. So there we go. So so it arrived this week.
Yes.
And literally within 24 hours of it arriving in a box, it was built.
I'll tell you something. Big shout out to our technicians. They have been on it.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. The output that those boys are putting through without any compromise to quality is definitely something to be shouting out. The guys are working amazingly. But yeah, you're right. Your bike was out of the box, built, and maybe a couple of taster photos sent to you as well.
So quick question then, because I don't think we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. So we've seen on the videos way back in Cycle Sunday the what the box looks like when it comes through. And I know we unpacked the frame. I've got an unboxing video of the frame of my Ultra XR4, but all that was in there was the frame and the handlebars.
Yeah.
With when it comes in a box, when you say it needs to be built, what exactly are the technicians doing? What are the things that they've got to do? And is that something that a customer could do, or you? Because I know you deliver them already built.
Yes.
But what's the build process? Is it relatively straightforward, or?
No, it's a great question, and different bikes are different in terms of its complexity. Every single bike that we get, effectively the bike is manufactured. So it's like almost as a car turns up to a car dealership on a transporter. It's you look at it and you go, oh, I could just go and drive that straight away. But when a car technician gets a car, they're doing quite a lot of what we call PDI checks, which is a pre-delivery inspection. And what it means is they go around everything and just make sure that everything is torqued down, everything's built properly, firmware and software updates are all done, all of the levels, the lights, tire pressures, all those sorts of things are correct. And then obviously the car's cleaned and it's handed over to the customer. When it comes to a bike, they come in a slight more disassembled state just to physically get into the box. Yeah. So I think to a lot of people, it's just a case of, oh, you just fit the front wheel and turn the handlebars round and that's the bike ready to go. It's a lot more involved than that. We're doing pre-delivery inspections to full British standards, and they are proper technicians who are actually building the bikes as well. So everything from brake and gear setup, ensuring that every single nut and bolt is torqued down to manufacturer's spec. Things like headset bearings are greased, and wheels are attached properly. Tires are inflated correctly, and then of course we test ride and fit accessories that customers have ordered as well. So relatively, low complicated bike would be something like a hybrid bike or a hardtail mountain bike, and we a technician could literally, from box to riding, could probably get that done in about 40 to 50 minutes in that region if they're in a flow.
Yeah.
But when it comes to full suspension bikes, forget about the e-bike aspect of it. When you get a full suspension bike, don't forget, we also, we're owners and operators in Scotland, and we've got quite a harsh environment up here in terms of mud and grit and grime and all that sort of thing. So we do go slightly above what the British standards requires of just safety checks. Full suspension bikes, for example, we do strip down things like the pivot bearings and what have you, and just make sure that everything is correctly anti-seized, correct Loctites are applied, and then obviously rebuilt back together with correct torque settings. So all of that, customers don't really know that we do that, but we do. And then, of course, when you add on to e-bikes, you then have to, you have to charge the battery, and you have to also update the firmware and software to make sure that everything is to the latest specs. So, it's to do your rail from start to finish is getting on to about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get it to complete setup. And then, of course, we need the rider's riding weight in kilos, and then we can do a base Trek suspension setup on that bike as well. So, when we do the national delivery, I think a few people have hadn't quite twigged what we do when we call national delivery. We personally put the bike in the back of one of our 2 vans, drive it to your front door, and this is a fully PDI'd, set up bike ready to ride with a proper personal handover as well.
Yeah. No, I'm glad I asked that question now, because I kind of assumed, you think I just turn the handlebars around and stick the pedals on and off you go. But that's interesting.
Yes,
really, really good.
Yeah.
So so the frustrating thing so now my bike is in the shop and I'm like 500 miles away. So we're now at the moment, listeners, we are just working out the logistics and timings of when I'm going to come and get the bike.
Yes.
Because actually we're going to tie in a couple of things. We're going to do it so we can go out for get some riding done, which is the most important bit, and get some filming done. At the same time, I'm going to try and bring Tracy's bike, because one of the things we want to do is on Tracy's bike fit a dropper seat post to help with her getting the right saddle height while she's riding, but being able to get on and off the bike. So, because the thing that's quite amusing at the moment, when she's striking off and getting on the bike, is her cycling shorts are catching on the front of the saddle sometimes. And then she's like, oh, so we're trying to do that. So that's the very, very exciting trek. And then the idea, we've then got the 2 or 3 rails, because you guys have got yours.
Yes.
And we can, in terms of project bike, what we thought would be really interesting was if Paul looks at adapting, evolving, modifying, however you want to describe it, your rail for the type of riding you guys do a lot of, bike parks and maybe a bit more double gapping and shredding gnar and all that kind of stuff, because you're really good at that. And I'm just, I get stressed bunny hopping up a curb. So, I it may well be that I look at mine and, if there are any modifications around trail riding and the kind of gravel trails and stuff that we have around here.
Yes.
But to be honest, it doesn't really need any modifying at all, really. I mean, it's a awesome bike. So it will just be made even more awesome by playing with other things.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Rosie and I are going to be doing this afternoon, is we're going to be videoing our first ride impressions of our Trek Rail 9.5s. I think one of the things that's blown us away more than anything else is just how good entry-level kit is nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, because I was really surprised, because I have a Remedy 8, so that's on the 8th level of spec. So that's what I'm used to riding. So, but I was really surprised with the Rail 9.5 that I didn't really notice, much of a spec difference. That the 5 spec is actually really, really good. And has been really impressed with that. And we gave it quite a bit of hammering over some quite rough terrain and things, but really it was, a great bike.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say? I mean, certainly for things like Groupset. I mean, obviously one of the benefits we've always stated from all the videos we've done is the difference in shifting quality and actual the way it works is very, very minimal between the different levels.
Yeah. I mean,
the difference is weight
yes.
and price.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if on an e-bike,
Yeah.
surely weight becomes less of an issue because it's an e-bike. It's heavy anyway.
Yeah.
And you've got the electrical assistance. So you could almost say the requirement to go to higher level componentry on an e-bike is more of a vanity thing than anything else, because you don't necessarily need the weight.
No, I wouldn't call it a vanity thing. That, a higher level grade of component definitely offers, big advantages.
You can tell on the brakes.
You can tell on the brakes.
The modulation on the higher spec brakes is much nicer. The feel of the brakes, and you can have a little bit of braking. It's just much nicer feel. Whereas the 9.5, while it's okay, it's a bit more of an on-off feel.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah.
I played devil's advocate. You give me the.
While I'm saying, I was really blown by how good it was for that spec. Yes. You do notice, and Paul will be able to notice that more. He's a much more talented rider on a mountain bike than I am, and definitely know the feel of that. But again, all of these bikes we're always saying are much better than we are. So.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely better than me.
Yeah, it does become, don't be, like we've always said, don't worry too much about the group sets, because you'd be surprised how good the not so good stuff is.
Yes.
So I guess because the other thing about group sets on a mountain bike is it's a harsh environment for a group set, right? It gets covered in mud and sand and crap, and I was in my local bike shop last week, and I just need to pick up some gas and a couple of bits, and there was a guy clearly talking about his bike being serviced as a mountain bike. Obviously, just had the quote for the work, and it was that typical thing we talked about quite a lot. It was a big number, right? And basically the guy was saying, but you've had the bike 18 months and you haven't done anything with it yet. What do you expect?
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, but can I not do this and not do that? Well,
yeah, yeah. So
it was group set, not group. It was cassette and chain, and I think his rear derailleur was knackered because the jockey wheels were all bucketed up and stuff, and So there's an argument maybe on a mountain bike. They're almost viewed though a bit more as a consumable than anything else.
Yeah. It's the same. And it always boils down to, and I know we're boring, spend your money on the frame, then spend your money on the wheels, and don't worry too much about the things like the gears, because they are the things that really are expensive and quick to replace.
Yeah. I mean that's why I went for the carbon frame. And then things like wheels, I guess the big thing, so at the moment it's a tubed tire rather than it would be nice to run tubeless.
So the wheels that are fitted to the 5 models, they're very, very basic wheels. In fact, to be honest with you, they more ships at Leith docks with lighter things than the wheels that are fitted to the 5 series of bikes. But the point is, they're inexpensive. So if you did buckle or break that wheel, to replace one of those wheels is 100, 150 quid. Whereas the wheels that we are about to put onto Rosie and my bike are the best part of £1,000 for a pair. So you've always got to. For those of people who are listening and not watching, you have just seen Rosie go, how much?
Rosie's how much? I think Paul had been talking bike pounds in the past.
But that's the point, right? Is that these are expensive, and whilst they are going to offer an appreciable difference in performance, they're expensive. So it's balancing all of those things. What are you going to use the bike for? What do you really need? And weigh it up against how much that you are happy to spend in maintenance and not just the purchase of that product in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm super excited
Yes.
about it, to be honest.
Indeed.
And then in the last 10 minutes, last super excited thing is we've got some more bits from Italy, have we not?
We have, and I've actually taken some arty shots.
To follow Criterium Cycles on Insta and my Instagram, and we'll put them up a bit later on.
Yeah, very much so. So, do you know, you know how we've been joking all the way through this, whilst we've been grimacing at the same time, is that we're going to get to a point where this is going to be able to be fully built, fully ready, and ready to go, except for a couple of bolts that hold on the rear caliper is going to slow the whole thing down.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I think we're going to get to that point because I think we've got the vast majority of the entire build kit for this bike now. It is little bits and pieces that we are just now waiting for. It is so tantalizingly close.
The amazing thing, though, don't you think? We ordered this back in like February.
Yeah.
Or no, middle of January, probably, actually.
Yeah.
So the exciting thing is that we are now starting to prep for when we can build the bike.
Yes.
So we're tantalizingly close to having everything in place.
Yep.
And the idea is that I'll come up to the shop a bit like I did earlier on in the year, and we will film the building of the bike.
Yes.
And Paul's at the moment doing some sort of practice because we really want to film it acely, if that's the word.
Yes.
So just doing some prep on that, and we'll kind of, and then once we've done that, then we can kind of pull together season 2 and get Cycle Sunday back, because I get so many messages, when's Cycle Sunday coming back?
Yeah.
And the simple answer is we kind of, what we didn't want to do was start it and then still have problems with the whole kind of Halo project of Cycle Sunday. So once we know we can build that, then we can film a whole bunch of stuff around the build of the Ultra XR4, but also around the rails and I've done some stuff around the Arcadex. So we've got loads and loads of stuff that we can pull together. We can start to get season 2 going again.
Yeah, it's really good. It is really exciting, and of course now we've got Rosie on board as well. It's like a team.
Exactly. It's like a triumvirate.
Yes.
I'll be back at school soon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Rosie's actually got a proper job, unlike us.
Yeah, proper job with a 6-week holiday every couple of months.
6 weeks.
7 weeks.
Oh my god! All right. Yeah. So it is super exciting. So we did have and I didn't prep this at all, but we had a really lovely story, because we said, have you got any stories or anything coming in, and we had this lovely story coming from one of my, I think perhaps my biggest American peddler, a guy called Colton Cleveringer, who sent us just a wonderful story, and I'm going to paraphrase the story now because of time, but it was basically when he was a kid, his dad built him a bike, and I think it was triggered by Rosie, your story from your dad building your bike when you were a kid. But, they didn't have a huge amount of money, and his dad went and bought like 5 bikes from like, what we'd call like car boot sales and pound shops and things.
Yeah.
And took these 5 bikes and took all the decent bits off of each bike and put them together to make this single bike.
Yes.
And did all of this without letting Colton know. And then obviously presented the bike, and it was for him freedom and and just a magical thing, and I just read that and I thought that, and I know you sent me a WhatsApp about it. That is the power of a bike. When you're a kid, bikes are freedom, and bikes give you those memories. For me, it was, I can remember kind of going on bike rides with my mates, and you'd like maybe do 6 miles or something, and you'd be miles from home, and you'd be going through woods and jumping stuff. We never got punctures though. I was thinking, I went out on a bike ride. Went out last weekend. I had 2 punctures in one bike ride.
Yes.
On my new tyres, on my new bike.
Yes.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Sore point. I put Vittoria courses on my Venge, and I had two punctures in the first bike ride.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
One, I think, was a flint or something went through it, and the other was the tube failed.
Right. Okay.
So,
but the other thing as well, how heavy were you when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, not very.
You know, it's the same tire, it's the same tube, and the more weight we put through it, the more it's the more it's got to hold.
What you're basically saying is I got lots of punctures last weekend because I'm fat and heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In a nutshell.
But it's funny though, just on the puncture side of things, because I was swearing a little bit. I need to go tubeless. I haven't had any punctures for ages and ages and ages, and then I've had literally 3 in the same week. I did 100 miles last week on the bike, on the various bikes, road bike and gravel bike, and I had 3 punctures.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, they all come at once. But it's been really interesting because I've had a couple of stories emailed across from various people as well after asking in that podcast that we did. And I think over the next week or two we'll pull all those stories together, and I think we'll do a bit of a sort of readout of them because it's absolutely
They're really
lovely.
nice. Let's do that. We should do that next week.
Yeah, let's do that.
We end up talking so much about. So I really want to talk about that at the end of the podcast, but we're kind of running out of time now. So let's do that. We'll compile them and sort of have a bit of read through because they were wonderful. I read the Colton's one and it was just like and a big shout out to Colton, by the way. He's like
indeed
Mr. American Peddler.
No, his messages are absolutely lovely all the time, and as I say, we've got a lovely story from Lewis as well. So we'll read those out next week. And the other thing that occurred over yesterday was we had a young lad buy his first proper bike, and his dad was there, and I think we'll put together some of the biggest joys that we have in the shop. Is we're starting to get now, because we're now 8 years, the best part of 8 years old, we're now at a point where we're starting to see kids who we sold kids' bikes to at the beginning start to come in and we're seeing the growth of these families, and as they start going through their cycling progressions, and it's, you almost feel like the bike shop is almost, for me, the last bastion of the old days of shopping, where each town had a bike shop, a butcher's, a baker's, and a greengrocer's, and everybody knew everybody, and it was a community thing. It almost feels like our family bike shop has still got that feel to it. It's wonderful to be in.
Amazing. What a great play. I reckon that's a good place to finish.
Yay.
So I'm going to very much look forward to some more teaser shots of some sexy carbon fiber from Campagnolo.
Yes.
Maybe. And maybe some more pictures of my bike, maybe, my rail. So send me some pictures of the rail. He sent me a picture of a handlebar, a pedal, and the sort of bottom of a battery.
Yes.
They were very arty, though.
They were arty.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's super exciting. We are getting ever closer to starting to be able to pull together season 2.
Yep.
Ever closer to building a bike. Yep. So it might be that we actually get to ride the bike before the winter comes.
Oh, that'd be good. And we might even be able to do a couple of days abroad. Ooh. Who knows?
You never know.
Yeah.
Highly likely, highly possible. But anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed that. As I said, check out Velodrome Riding. You'll love it. It's amazing. But at the end of another Cycle Sunday podcast, don't forget, please share the link. Give us a rating if you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe if you're watching it on the YouTube channel. We are desperate to try and extend the reach of this podcast. Those people that listen to it love it and comment and are fully engaged. We just need more people to find it and start listening to it. So you can do your bit by sharing the link. But for now, I'm gonna crack on and get this edited so it can go live this evening. And you guys are gonna go and start doing some filming with your rails.
Yay.
But hopefully you've enjoyed that one. But for now, I've been Pete Greaves.
I've been Paul Bowker.
I'm Rosie Bowker.
Yay! Anyway, guys, you take care. Ride safe.
Ride safe, everyone.